Hi, everybody. Giving everybody a chance to jump on. There's Mark.
Howdy. How you doing?
Hi. I just started. We're giving everybody a few minutes to jump on the webinar and we'll get kicking. Hope everybody's having a good day and we can hear me okay. If you cannot hear me, if there's a problem with the audio, go ahead and give me a shout in the chat box and we'll see what we can do. But it's 2 o'clock on the nose, and I know Mark has a lot of great information to share with us, so I'm going to get started. Welcome to this month's webinar, Harmony Webinar Series, Circle Up, Adding Psychotherapy Groups to Your Practice, presented by Mark Aslay. So excited to have him here. Couple of things before we get going with Mark. Harmony is nestled on a 43-acre campus in the Rocky Mountains just outside of Estes Park, and we are a residential rehab center. Who we are. So Harmony believes that long-term recovery from alcohol and other drugs is possible. Again, we're located in Estes Park. We have about 52 years of treating addiction, and we have fostered a generation of long-term recovery for our clients and their families. So Harmony staff at all levels of the organization work together to create a very large and supportive community. We are a 70-bed residential program. We do have an IOP program. We also offer medical detox. If you're interested in learning more about Harmony, please head to the website, harmonyfoundationinc.com, or you can call our admissions staff at 866-686-7867. So a couple of things I wanted to be sure I took time to go over. We do record these webinars. So come Friday, end of day, this webinar will be found on our website and you can revisit it as much as you like. At that point, the CEUs are no longer available, but if you are on this presentation for 45 minutes or longer, then you are eligible to receive that CEU. If for some reason you do have to jump off, I can provide you with a certificate of attendance. Just go ahead and email me at the email on the screen, cweeks@harmonyfoundationinc.com, and I'll be happy to help you out. If you do not receive your certificates by end of day on Friday, please let me know. There is also an evaluation at the end of this, so it should pop up shortly after the presentation ends. We would love for you to fill that out. We love to hear the feedback, and we are continually trying to better these webinars, and we want to provide you with topics that you're interested in. So go ahead and let us know what those topics are. If you do not see the link or the screen pop up with the evaluation, it will come with your CEU. I will include it in that email with your certificate. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. I want to say thank you to Mark for partnering with us on this. I think this is going to be a great webinar for y'all and kind of go about it a different way. Mark is going to entertain questions during the presentation. So if you have them, go ahead and enter them in the chat box. I'll kind of monitor them and we'll have a nice exchange throughout instead of him talk, you talk, as we have in the past. So let's make this as interactive as we can, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. So if you want to learn more about Mark and his practice, you can head to his website. It is on the screen, markaslay.com, and you'll be able to find his contact information there as well. So on the topic of Mark, we're going to go ahead and introduce him. He is a psychotherapist in a private practice in Boulder, and he is the past president of the Four Corners Group Psychotherapy Society. He helps clients that have a harmful relationship to the inherent aggression or who are stuck in the pain of their repetition compulsions. Many of his clients struggle with addiction, anxiety, and self-sabotage. Mark helps people uncover and destroy the unconscious barriers that cripple them by using a blend of modern psychoanalytic and contemplative psychotherapy. His therapeutic style can best be described as irreverent with surprising moments of profound depth. And so with that, I'm going to let Mark take over and we will get going. It should be yours. I'm going to mute and turn my video off so I don't distract from the presentation.
All right, I will move it over. Hello, everybody. How you all doing? Can I see the people here? Let's see. Oh, you're muted there.
They will not pop up. So you will not see anybody. You can see me.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So if you have a question, put it in the chat since I can't see you, or just interrupt me. We're going to be talking about more of a business focused thing here of how to actually add groups to your psychotherapy practice. I do have presentations and offer supervision around how to actually run a group, but this one is going to be, how to make it happen. So let me go ahead and get this going. Okay. And we can see this. All right. So like I was saying, or I guess like Christy was saying, I'm the past president of the Four Corners Group Psychotherapy Society. So I will be promoting them during this presentation. It's a nonprofit that I started about 6 years back. That is the local chapter of the American Group Psychotherapy Association, the AGPA. And essentially what it does is it's a professional organization for people running groups. So not only will they help you become a better group leader, but also help you promote your groups and get out there, make some money, and serve a lot of people, right? Increase a lot more accessibility. I would love to hear, as we're kind of doing the warm up here, people could post in the chat, what kind of venue do you work in? And what I mean by that is, are you in private practice? Do you work at an agency? Do you work at a treatment center, inpatient, outpatient? Are you a business owner? That will help me tailor some of this to the people that are listening, so I can make sure this is as relevant as possible. So if you could just type real quick in the chat where you work in general, so that I can make that make sense. Oh, hey, Sophie. All right. So as we're going here, here's some objectives, right? So hopefully by the end of this hour, you will embrace your identity as a group psychotherapist. And I think that's really important, right? Because we're going to be talking not just about having group as an extra thing, but as group being the main way that you work, right? Being just as equal as individual therapy. I'll talk a lot about kind of the stigma and how the industry works, but really embracing our identity as a group psychotherapist, not as it being something that's like, cheaper, right? Or easier, but actually being as a equal complement to the individual or family work that you do. Hopefully during this, you're going to develop a couple ideas, 2 or 3 ideas for psychotherapy groups, right? Something you might want to run, something that you might want to offer to the community. Hopefully this gets your juices flowing as you brainstorm what would make sense for you in your practice. Then we're going to be implementing a marketing plan for your group. So the very last slide here is going to have exactly week by week what to do, what to focus on, so you can get a group off the ground. I will also say that these slides are available. Also during the slides, I do make mention to some handouts that I have. Most of them are kind of my forms that I just give to people. So if you do want any of those forms, I'm just going to go ahead and dump my email into the chat right now. It's mark@mark-asley.com. Go ahead and just email me and I'll send you all the materials I have. If you want a copy of this, if you want, any of those forms, anything, it's all available. Okay, and it looks like as we're going, it seems like a pretty fair split between agency work and private practice. Okay. Okay, so you may notice before we dive in here that one of these has a fireball on them. Okay, these fire tips are, if you only take a couple things away from the presentation, write these down. I think this is what I offer and what this presentation offers differently from a typical marketing presentation. This will help you to kind of have that extra edge as a marketer, as a business owner. Without going too much into it, this is a big thing that I do in the supervision that I run. And what I do in the community is I help therapists in private practice become also business owners, right? Clinically, most people are very confident, but when it comes to that business side, we don't get trained in it, right? We don't get trained in it in our grad school. Oftentimes we don't seek out extra material around it. So I'm here to help you learn some business techniques. So why add groups? Okay, first and foremost, more impact, right? Literally you get more people in the room. And it's a way to share our knowledge. Now, I'm a big fan of democratizing psychotherapy, right? We have tons of training, tons of information. Things that we take for granted are often mind-blowing to clients. I went to school at Naropa, and a big focus of that is mindfulness, right? So I will talk about mindfulness with clients. I will say, hey, have you ever considered sitting and breathing? right? And it blows their mind, right? Breathing blows their mind. People don't really consider things like that. So we have incredible knowledge, but unfortunately, the way that the industry works is that it's oftentimes just not capable. We're not able to touch a lot of people, impact a lot of people, unless we're seeing many people at the same time, right? I think for most people, in private practice, for instance, having a caseload of, 30, 35 is about the maximum. But with a group, you can start to put, 10, 12, 15 people in a group and have a lot more impact and share what we know with larger groups of people, which for me is very important. And I'd imagine that value might be shared with some of the audience here. Kind of coupled with that is more accessibility. Groups in general are significantly cheaper than individual therapy. So it's a way to access people that, have less privilege in our communities. It's a way to access people that are maybe a little more hesitant, that might want to go, might feel intimidated by doing individual psychotherapy. It's a way to reach groups and populations by marketing specifically to them that are underserved, people of color, people in the LGBTQ community, people that have gone through specific traumas or that have, chronic disease, people that are oftentimes missed by our industry. If you're able to market and make a group specifically for them, you can start to reach a whole segment of the population that is often ignored. Another kind of pitch on group is this mixed treatment model. So this is how I run my private practice. And yeah, I'd love to chat more about this with people if they're interested. But this idea of seeing people both individually and in group, it's a privileged way of running a practice, but it is very, very powerful, I've seen, because, when I hear somebody talk about their issues, relational issues in individual therapy, I'm only hearing their side of it. I work with a lot of men, and a lot of my men have internalized misogyny, and they'll often talk about their experiences with women, right? Some of them are honest about that. Some of them are not so honest about that. But I can't really see that play out until they're in group with a woman, then it's real. I can see those behaviors come out. I can see those moments when they get angry or afraid or disgusted or whatever it is. And me as a group therapist, and hopefully you in the future as a group therapist, can intervene in the moment with these relational patterns. What's also great about the mixed models, it goes the other way. So if somebody is having an intense experience in group, something getting triggered by somebody, or, something intense comes up, they have my individual work in order to talk about it, dissect it, open it more. So individual and group really work fantastic in synergy. And this is something that I think those of you who work in, inpatient treatment centers, or those of you who work, in agencies are aware of, because that's kind of the format, right? If you work in a rehab or a hospital or something, but something that gets missed a lot in private practice. And I do think the group component of going through the psychological development together is incredibly powerful, just from a strictly clinical standpoint. The other thing that, worth looking at is more money, right? I think as we're coming from our business hats, our coaching hats, it's important. There's ways to work it out. You can run a spreadsheet that you end up getting paid more hourly for a group, but your clients pay less, right? So that's a classic win-win. I will say, I'm not sure where people are coming from. And I imagine most people are local to Colorado, although Renee, hey, I know you're not in Colorado, but I'm really happy you're able to join for this thing. But the standard rate I'm seeing in private practice, at least, is about 50 as a baseline for group, moving up to 60, 75. I haven't seen anything really above 75, but there's a way that you can work it out that, yeah, you're getting paid your hourly plus more on top of what you're doing. And, it's a way to make more money, increase your business value, get paid for the hard work that we're doing. You also can develop an expertise of practice. In private practice specifically, being a group therapist in this industry is still pretty rare. So being known as somebody who does groups, who knows about groups, can be a fantastic resource for the community at large, right? For, again, accessing those often underserved populations. Now, here is your first fire tip. Okay, so the first fire tip is clinician-focused products or clinician-focused groups are often, or at least in my experience and people I've coached, have been easier to fill than individual treatment groups. Why is that? Well, therapists believe in the power of group, right? Many of us have experience in our grad school. We've maybe been in a group if we have a background of being in a treatment center, like I have. We've started groups around like consultation, supervision. We know what group can do. So it's actually a much easier sell. So the first group to add, I've seen, is something like a consultation group or a supervision group or a support group for therapists or a group for therapists that work with anxiety or people that want to learn about EMDR or whatever it is. having something that is clinician focused is a great place to start. And it provides value for the clinician community, right? It gives us more connection, again, especially in private practice, which, as we know, is incredibly lonely, right? Can be incredibly lonely. Collecting in groups, learning about things together, supporting ourselves can really keep the whole industry a lot healthier. So first fire tip, market to clinicians. Okay, how to add a group. So step one, and this is the step that is often hard for people, especially if we are in that kind of caregiver mentality, which I certainly have been. I do a lot of work in my own personal therapy to kind of get over that, is pick a 90 minutes time slot on your calendar, right? And this is important for you as a clinician to pick that time slot, right? Don't ask your members when would be good for them. Don't try to work it in. Don't use democracy, picking something that works for you. Now, there's a couple things. I found that for a client-focused group, a process group, a support group, a psycho-ed group, that after work is ideal. All my groups run from 5 to 6:30. I find it's helpful, especially when we were still doing things in person, that people can come from their work and come directly into group. I found if it gets any later than that, then people end up, eating dinner and then not coming to group.
Hey, I got a question for you, Mark.
Yes.
So Barbara would like to know, what is the range of amounts insurance pays for groups?
That I don't know, right? And I'll tell you that, one, I don't take insurance. That's a whole nother conversation. And two, insurance companies don't like us disclosing what that is. Right. What I will say is that it's a lot lower than $50 to $75. So I would recommend, if you can run it without insurance, it can be a lot helpful. If you do insurance-based groups and you're looking to balance your business and get paid your hourly rate or more, you're going to need to have pretty big groups, usually around 12 to 15 people, in order to make that work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, so I found that, after work is ideal for clients. I find midday is ideal for clinicians, around, noon to 1:30 or 2 to 3:30. You want to do things with clinicians where clients are not wanting that time, right? If you're running a supervision group after work, we know in private practice that is the main time that our clients want therapy. So you want to book your groups and your offerings in those kind of more dead hours, right? Another fire tip, once your practice is at 12 people, right, open a group and invite everybody, right? And this can be kind of a general process group. It can be a relationship group. It can be a communication group, whatever you want to call it. But people always ask, hey, when do I start? If your private practice is at 12 people, you're good to go. If you invite everybody, you're going to get around 4 people that are going to want to join. That's enough to start a group, to start practicing. The group might not last forever, but it's a good way just to kind of start running them. I'll talk about this more in the, down the line in the presentation, but the first group is the hardest to start, right? It can often take a year to get the first one up and running. But once you get the first one up and running, you know how to do it, you get known as like a group person, then you're good to go. So what kind of group do you want to run? Well, it really starts at first to anchor a group around a theme. And there's a couple of them, right? The big kind of categories are, a population, a diagnosis or an issue, or a modality. Now, I do come from, my modern psychoanalytic background. I come from AGPA, American Group Psychotherapy Association, and we really love running process groups. Now, nobody knows what process group means. I'll go cut to the chase. No client knows what a process group is. They don't know what a general group therapy is, right? People, when it comes to marketing, need a little bit more hand-holding. They want something where they can read it and say, oh, this is me, right? This is a group for me. So anchoring it around a theme is absolutely critical because people can have that affinity for what they're doing. And I'm sure you know what these are, right? But I'll run through a couple, right? Population, LGBTQ, I run some men's groups. You can work with a group for mothers, people that are in relationship to addicts or alcoholics, right? Issues or diagnoses. It can be working on relationships. It can be, overcoming substance abuse. It can be, working with depression, working with procrastination, working with students, things like that. And last thing is modality. So if you really are an expert at, DBT, or you're an expert at, I've actually seen the EMDR groups go off, modern psychoanalytic groups, mindfulness groups, you can anchor it around a modality. You want to give people something to hold on to.
So on that note, Mark, would you recommend starting court mandated groups?
So this is a whole nother conversation. But what I will say is that if you're building a private practice or building an agency, right, there's two branches that you can go. You can go for a commodity focused practice, which is volume, lots of people, insurance providing, court mandated would be underneath this, right? Or you can go luxury, which would be cash pay, boutique, right? Small amount of people, but getting really, unique service and individualized service. I've gone luxury, but I've worked in commodity agencies. So I would say, yes, but know what you're getting into, right? If you want to start court mandated treatment, in order for it to make sense for you financially, you're going to need to be running probably 3 to 4 of them right off the gate. Many of them are 15 to 20 people. They're often not reimbursed very well. There's a manual that you have to go through. That being said, your pipeline is never going to run out, right? Unfortunately, there are always people that are in that system that always need those types of groups. So I don't know if I would recommend it or not, but just be aware of what goes into starting a court mandated group. I'd recommend reaching out to other agencies that do that, or talking to OBH, which would be the one that would be kind of regulating how you run those groups.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, so once you get those people, distribute the group forms. Again, if you want them, I can send them to you. Essentially what these are, one form is a contract of how the group works, and one is a set of rules of what you can talk about. Right. Okay, next one, fire tip. I'm going to talk a little bit about a shadowy part of our industry. Ooh, spooky. What I've experienced is, and this is just from my experience with people I've talked to, is that clinicians, especially in private practice, are very paranoid about losing clients, right? They're very paranoid about if their client joins the group, then they're going to leave them in individual therapy and they're going to join the group. Because what I think that is a lot of it's a scarcity mentality. A lot of it is people making this rationalization of like, oh, well, they're going to do the thing that's cheaper and not pay me. And I think that's something that, I certainly went through. I think a lot of clinicians in private practice go through in the first couple of years, because it is a tough industry to kind of get started in. And without that being kind of dispelled, you're not going to get any referrals, because they think you're going to steal their clients. And we know now that's not what happens. And in fact, like I said before, the mixed model is a phenomenal way to kind of structure somebody's treatment. But in my forms and in logistical details, I make sure, I actually mandate it, that my client is in individual therapy as well as in a group. Whether that's with me or with somebody else, I don't actually care. The way it's worked out right now is most of my clients are with me, but some of them are with other people. It's about 60-40 split right now in my practice. But that can really help to dissuade some of the fears of a referral source coming in. And making that really clear. So when you do pitch your group to another therapist, saying like, look, it's part of my group that you're going to still work with you. We're going to collaborate. We're going to talk every 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is. Make sure that we keep those lines of communication open. Not only does that help with that scarcity mentality that does plague many, especially new practitioners, but it will benefit your client, right? Because you're getting that information that you would be getting with them individually, but you're getting it by collaboration. And our field can always use more collaboration. Okay, so you got your people, right? You got the people in your practice. You've reached out. You want to intake them, right? This is where most people that build groups fail, is that the intake isn't significant enough, and they don't do our little fire tip over here, the follow-up. So the first thing, I recommend doing a full, 45-minute consultation, not a quick phone call, not an email, actually getting people to sit and talk to you. When we were working in person, I know some people are going back to person, but when you're working in person, having them physically drive to the location, seeing in the group room, sitting with you, like feeling your energy, right? Getting a sense of like what the commute's going to be like, what the decor looks like, what you are like, really helps with sales, right? Because they've already done it and it becomes more real for them. Also, if this is someone that isn't in your practice before, this is somebody who is a referral or somebody who finds you through some of your other marketing things, they need to start to build a relationship with you as a leader first and foremost, because the members, right, and this is kind of group theory, the members are much more, I don't want to say this, psychologically dangerous, right? Whereas the leader is more psychologically safe, right? We are trained professionals. We're not going to like yell at them or freak out or say stuff that's rude or whatever, right? But members might, right? So they need to bond with us first. They need to bond significantly, kind of like attachment theory, right? They need to bond with the parent, bond with the leader, so that they feel confident enough and safe enough to be in a group of strangers. So these are some of the questions that I ask. And you can see that, in some way I'm screening them, but really the goal of these questions is to build my relationship with this person as quickly as possible and to start to move into emotional intimacy with them. So the first one's pretty easy, right? What are you looking for out of the group? This is pretty much, the big screen that I use, is making sure that their vision of what they want is consistent with what the group is about, right? So for instance, one distinction that I make is, are they looking for process, right? Which is, interpersonal relationships, oftentimes conflict, oftentimes self-reflection, oftentimes like kind of saying whatever comes to your mind without censoring it, right? These types of things. Are they looking for support, which is still relational, but doesn't really have that conflict piece that process groups often have? They just want to be heard. They want to be validated. They want to hear other people's experiences. They want to be working through an event, a life event, or a diagnosis, or what have you, together with a group of people. Or do they want psychoed? Do they want tools, techniques, structure, mindfulness instruction, DBT skills, things like this? These are the three big group categories. It's really great that when you're forming your group, that you come into mind which one of these three your group is going to be. And you want to ask people what they're looking for. And if they're not looking for the same thing that you are, that you're providing, they're probably not a good fit. If you encounter a lot of people that do want a psychoed group, or you're trying to run a process group, then maybe you just change your group, right? And start a psychoed group, because it sounds like that's where the need is. Again, me as a process group junkie, what I found, especially, during COVID, but also leading up to COVID, is that even though I love process, I love conflict in groups, most of the people that I'm talking to want support groups, right? They don't want to fight people. They don't want to work out their transference. They don't want to come into, debate with people and really see their own patterns. Like I get off on that, but they just want support. So I switched one of my men's group to be much more support focused. I have one that's support focused. I have one that's process focused, based on what people answered this question. So the next one is, what experience with groups have you had in the past? Now, this doesn't have to be therapy groups, although it's great if it is, but you can ask them about, sports teams, clubs, friend groups, either family can be a group. This question, I don't really care what they say, but what I'm really kind of screening for in this question is, are they able to think critically about their role in a group? Can they say like, oh yeah, I'm often a leader, or oh yeah, I'm the one who tells jokes all the time, or oh yeah, I'm a caregiver? This level of introspection is really helpful of knowing if someone is appropriate for a group. If they aren't able to really answer this question, or they can't think critically about how they show up in groups, then maybe they're suitable for a psychoed, or they have to be in a court mandated group, but they're probably not suitable for a support group or a process group. These people will oftentimes either monopolize all the time, or be very, very quiet and be very shut down. They won't have that kind of metacognition that we're looking for to be successful in a therapeutic group thing. Question 3 is actually the same question, right? What role do you play in a group? Number 4 is there any type of person you can never be in a group with? So this can be, kind of a tough question for some people to answer, but one, it displays that you're being protective of that member already, right? You're building a relationship. You want to know more about them, know about their triggers. And if that person does exist in your group, you know not to put them in there. And you will be surprised. People have answers to this, usually based on trauma in their past, or based on, bad friend experiences, bad family experiences. This is a great question to know. They can help you screen somebody out. And then the very last one is, how can I, as the leader, help you to accomplish your goals? Again, right? Building a relationship, building connection, but also checking for metacognition. Can they see you as the leader as a resource that they can use? That's really critical in a process group, less critical in a support group, a little less critical in a psychoeducation group, but still important, right? You want to be like, look, I am here to help you. You and I are a connection. We are a unit in this, and I want to help you to accomplish your goals. They might say, hey, call on me. I don't often jump in. Or, hey, I talk a lot. Like, tell me to be quiet sometimes. Or I get really shy around a certain type of person. Like, can you help me to navigate that? Starting to build and opening up the channel that you are a resource for them. And they're not the audience, right? They're a member in a group, can be really helpful. So ask these questions. If people pass, put them on a wait list. Okay, once your wait list gets to about 8 people, then you open up your group. And again, expect about 50% attrition at this point. So with 8 people, you're probably going to get 4, right? You get 3 to 5, which is enough to start. And getting something started, getting something running is, again, the hardest part. Now, this is the fire tip. This is the hot tip that I think kind of comes with a little bit of the coaching background that I have, is when people are on your wait list, follow up with them. Once a month, doesn't have to be a ton, but send them an article about the topic or about the population or about the modality, right? The things we talked about in the previous slide. Send them a book recommendation, send them a video or a TED talk. Keeping them engaged, giving them a drip feed of content reminds them not only, hey, I signed up for this, right? But also demonstrates the value that they can get out of their group. Another thing that I can do, which is great, is it can give people a language, right? A kind of shared and communal language before they even enter the group. So for instance, I run men's groups, and there's a couple books that I recommend, Iron John, Way of Superior Man, Way of Men, things like this. And I recommend it to people that join and when they're on the wait list. About half people read the books, half people don't. But the people that do read the books, they come in and now there's a shared language about masculinity issues. There's a shared kind of experience that they've already been through. And it gives a nice little juice for the group to start off, which can be very helpful for people, especially if they're new to group psychotherapy. So yeah, this little follow-up thing will really help people build a group. I found that, because this process takes longer than you think it does, someone signs up for a wait list, sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 months before they join the group. You email them, you go radio silent, you email them in 5 months saying, hey, the group's starting, next week. And they're like, who are you? Right? What is that? Or like, oh, I forgot I signed up for that. So again, this little drip feed of content really helps with managing attrition. Okay, so now we're on to the marketing piece. So how to market a group. I'm a big fan of in-person networking. Doing events like this, I think Harmony offers kind of social networking events, going to the holiday parties, right? Going to the conferences, meeting people in person. As much as I do stuff on the internet, I find that in-person connection is by far the most effective thing to do. So first thing is email a contact list about your group. So as I see attached here, again, if you want a template or you want emails that I send out promoting them, just let me know and I'll send you kind of what I did to promote my groups. Fire tip, call people. Look, I'm a millennial. I was very nervous about calling people. I was a very shy kid. I didn't know how to get on the phone. I had to learn how to cold call when I was building my private practice. I find that calling therapists can be really effective. And what's great about our industry is that everybody's phone number is on the internet, right? Whether it be on Psychology Today or on their website, all their phone numbers are out there. So it's very easy to find somebody's number. So say you're working with a population, say you're working with the LGBTQ community, right? What you can do is you can search Psychology Today for people that work with those clients, right? You can literally type in LGBTQ, I think, on Psychology Today. I think it actually is like gay, lesbian, bisexual, maybe a couple other things, transgender. You can click those, right? See people in your area. And then when you click on their profile, it'll tell you if there's a group that they run or not, right? Because you can list your groups on your profile. So you want to find people that work with those clients, but don't run groups. Those are your people, right? Like those are the people you want to talk to. So call them up, introduce yourself, talk about that collaborative care model, tell them that you're not going to steal their client. Say, hey, is there anyone in your practice that would be a good fit for this group? This is a really fast way and really efficient way to fill your groups because you're going straight to those referral sources instead of waiting for them to come to you. And hey, you might make a friend or a colleague along the way. These people, you'll find a handful of them that become regular leads, right? That are consistently sending you people, consistently filling up your group. They're like, oh, hey, you run this group? You have another one open? Do you have another opening in your group? And these can become really powerful networking funnels, right? Other one, go to events, trainings that group or theme related. Again, put yourself in situations where you're learning about group, talking about the theme. Another fire tip, get outside of our industry. I cannot say this enough. I should make a whole presentation on this of how to do this, but essentially, and many people are probably similar to me, is I know a lot of therapists, right? I imagine a lot of you know a lot of therapists. So even though I get a lot of inquiries for my business and I refer out a lot of people, I am a bad referral source because I'm referring to a lot of people that I know. I'm not very consistent, right? You'll get people from me, but probably like once a year, once every other year. If you find someone outside of our industry, you're the only therapist that they know. So you're going to get everyone that talks to them mental health. You're going to get that as a referral. You're going to get that as a lead. I've done a lot of work I'm in Boulder, in the startup community, in the, entrepreneur community, small business community. And I'm like the therapist there. So it's really great that when these, entrepreneurs need somebody, they reach out to me. I worked with one of my supervisees. She went into oil and gas. She went to oil and gas conferences where there's no therapist there, right? And she filled her practice in like 3 months because, of course, those people need mental health just like everybody else. But she was the only therapist that somebody knew from that industry. I've had people go in the agriculture industry, and talk to those people. Many people go to schools or teaching, right? They try to get into that. They're nursing, hospital. So going outside of the industry is really critical to start to be known as somebody who offers these types of groups. It's much less competitive out there, and there's much more need. And it kind of goes back to the thing I talked about in the beginning, which is increasing the impact, is that getting our knowledge to people, to industries that don't usually have access to it is very rewarding. Yeah, at least for me. The other thing is owning group work as part of your professional identity. First thing would be, joining my nonprofit. I don't run it anymore. I don't get any kind of financial kickback, but joining the local group chapter or joining the American Group Psychotherapy Association can be really helpful. Just kind of like, plant a flag as I am a group person. But the main thing, here's the fire tip, is telling all your clients that group is not just an option, but the goal of treatment. I'm going to break that down a little bit because this is something that has helped me sell my groups to my own clients. It's something that I believe also, but it's something that's very effective. So when I intake somebody, right, and I work almost exclusively with men, so I apologize if that's not who you work with. That's a lot of my experience, and when I'm pulling stories from my own practice, that's what it's going to be. I tell these guys, hey, we're going to work individually for 6 months, a year or so. Then you get to graduate, right? And when you graduate, we work every other week, but then you join one of my weekly men's groups. So what I'm doing in this is I'm saying, like, you want to get to group, right? When you're in group, when you're in that mixed model, that means that you're really kicking ass. That means that you've graduated, that you've worked through some of your issues, that you're ready to play in the playground. I have it in my business. I'd recommend that you do something similar if you're doing business design, that mixed model of every other week individual as well as weekly group is cheaper, right? It's important. It's actually cheaper than weekly individual, right? It's cheaper for the client, but it makes more money for me. So it's really interesting how you can start to build your business around things like that. It's a win-win for everybody because the client gets more contact, right? They get to meet new people. They, step down from individual therapy. They pay a little bit less money. In my practice, they pay about $100 less per month. And they're in much more of a sustainable model. Also, in my business, it opens up more individual slots so I can put guys doing the individual weekly. Right. So it kind of is this flow that I've created in my business. And if you didn't follow that or you want more detail about that, I'm more than happy to talk to you and kind of show you how I do that. I think it could be a really efficient model for building a private practice. But yeah, setting group as the goal, as the end product, as kind of the graduation, rather than, oh, hey, it's the cheaper option, or like, oh yeah, if you can't make individual, like I'll throw you in one of my groups, which is, I'm playing that up, right? But this is kind of the impression that many people get about groups, is that it's kind of the less valuable option. Whereas, I think it's actually more valuable, especially when coupled with some good individual work. Okay. So you can also present. So this is what I'm doing, right? Harmony is on that list. But I would encourage you, if you're really wanting to get in ahead of people, especially if you're doing that luxury product that I was talking about before versus a commodity product, is really asserting yourself as an expert in the field of groups. So looking for opportunities to get in front of other clinicians. These are ones that I've, done kind of consistently that are in the, Boulder, Denver area, right? They're really open to presentations. I'm sure Christy can talk to you about presenting at Harmony, but putting yourself in front of other clinicians is really, really helpful for being seen as an expert, and being seen as someone who knows what they're talking about. The other thing is going straight to treatment centers that focus on similar populations, training their group leaders, presenting, doing a guest group if they offer that, running a workshop. things like that. Really getting yourself known in the community as a pillar and as someone who's giving a lot of value. I will say, I have no problem doing a lot of this stuff for free. It's part of marketing. It's part of, getting my face out there. And if I'm successful, and if you're successful, you're going to get paid down the line by people joining your groups, right? So to think of it, this is as an investment of time to build your business in the future. The other thing to say is when you present, you want to show, don't tell. Again, I'm aware of time. I can be very wordy, but this is a whole nother presentation. But essentially, when I'll use me as an example, right? If you can see how I'm talking, right, you're getting a sense of who I am, right? I'm making jokes. I talk kind of fast. I have kind of like an East Coast thing going on. But you're getting a sense of how I am. I'm like this in group too, I'm kind of like this as a therapist, although I'm a little better at listening. But the idea is when you present, it's not just all about information data download. It's about people experiencing you, understanding you, really getting a sense of who you are, building a relationship. That's what's important. And then the last thing, another fire tip here, is creating a meetup around your theme. Okay. So for instance, if you want to work with, let's see, partners of people that are in addiction, you can go to meetup.com. You pay for the thing. I think it's like $30 a month or something. And you can create a meetup of, hey, who are people that, partners of people in addiction, and to see who shows up, right? If you can't start a meetup or you can't get people in a room for like, I was going to say a happy hour, but that's probably not good for that group, but for like a walk or a picnic or whatever it is, then there's probably not enough need around your theme to start a group. With COVID, I don't know if this is relevant anymore, but I think it is helpful just to kind of get a sense of what's out there and if people are interested. I've worked with people, some supervisees that have had fantastic ideas, but they're a little bit too specific. Like I have somebody who was trying to create a group around video game addiction and around internet toxicity, which is awesome. I mean, I'm a nerd. I know this is a huge problem. It's something to really look into. However, these types of people, at least in his experience, didn't want to go to a meetup, right? They didn't want to go to a group. They didn't want to talk to other people. They wanted to, unfortunately, probably stay in their toxic patterns. So seeing what's out there, seeing if that population is both, interested and mobile can be really helpful in starting a group. Okay, moving right along here. So how to market a group through social media. I cannot stress this one enough. Here's an example of one of my flyers for our men's groups. Create simple flyers, simple flyers. You can see from this one, hopefully you can see my little pointer here, but you can see, evocative image in the top third, very simple, big letters in the second, and then the bottom is, in the third is kind of contact information and a little picture of yourself. That's all it has to be. I've seen clinicians do posters that are walls of text, that are a lot of writing, that have very nuanced photos. I mean, they look good, but if you're looking at it on social media, it comes across, if you're looking on your cell phone, you can't read it, right? So it ends up kind of just like blurring your eyesight a little bit. So you want something that is like simple, evocative. You don't have to give all the information. All you have to do is get people to call you. And you can see, this is actually I charge a little bit more and they're a different time now, but you can see that really I'm saying when it is, how much it costs, and then a phone number to call me. Right? My only goal is to get people to call me and be like, hey, I saw that thing about a men's group. Like, what's that about? That's all the flyer has to be, right? Post it everywhere, post it on Facebook groups, right? Again, pages around your theme, pages, their local networking pages, alumni pages for your school, whatever it is. Now, most people kind of know how to do that if they're social media savvy. But the thing that, again, it's extra work, but I think is really helpful is creating auxiliary content around your theme. Now, big ones are blogs or Facebook Live. And by Facebook Live, I could also mean things like video. I find that video in any content is what is really popular. This can be, again, Facebook Lives, which are, live video that broadcasts out to everyone that follows you. It could be Instagram videos. It can be videos that you post on YouTube. Video is fantastic because, again, just like having them come to your office, people get to see you. They get to hear your voice. They get to see what your office looks like. They really get a sense of what the product is. And the product is, spending time with you, right? So the more you can bring people closer to what their actual experience will be with you in a group, the more effective it's going to be. So starting a group is hopefully a first step or a step on your path to becoming an expert on your different theme, on your population, your insight, your modality. So these videos, this marketing may seem like a lot to fill a group. I will say, one, it kind of is what it takes, but two, it has kind of overarching benefits where you're starting to become a lot more vocal about the things that you know about and that are meaningful to you. Okay. Another thing to kind of get out there, become an expert, is to do podcasts and webinars, right? I just like the one that says make you look famous. It does make you look famous because you are getting interviewed by somebody. So it's a great way to get out there, speak, share these things. There's a lot of local people that are doing podcasts. I do a podcast. My nonprofit FTGPS does a podcast. A quick Google search will show that there's tons of people always looking for guests on podcasts. I think for a while, Harmony actually was doing a podcast. I know Sandstone Care is doing a podcast locally.
We still do.
You still do it? Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about that? How people can get on there?
Yeah. Well, the one podcast that we have going right now is Monday State of Mind. It's hosted by Michael Mazel. She's our director of alumni and recovery services, and she really focuses on topics that really feed into keeping your state of mind positive and making you focusing on the good things and the gratitude and realizing that there are a lot of things that go on in everyday life, and there are resources, and she has a tendency to pull guests who speak to specific topics, the gifts of sobriety, things like that. So yeah, it's a great podcast, or a great way to reach a wide variety and to network with others who are within your industry.
Yeah, that's awesome, right? So that's a resource that people can use, is to get out there, again, get interviewed. You don't have to start your own if you don't have the bandwidth for that, but getting interviewed is great. And it's a great way to kind of, continue to be an expert in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay. I know we're going blinding speed here, but this is what it's all about. So kind of where we're going to start to wrap up here is this idea of ikigai. Okay. This kind of ran out of left field, but this is a Japanese kind of theory for life purpose. And I find this really helpful in figuring out like what kind of topic you want to do for your group. So ideally you're in the middle, right? It's a combination of what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, right? All these things together create this sweet spot. You can see we got many fireballs here. This is, if you get one thing from this presentation, it's this type of thing. This is kind of the passion that you're going to need in order to get your group going and to start to market consistently over time. You can get away with kind of doing, what you're good at and what you're paid for, right? But that creates burnout. I find that really for our industry, being as intense as it is, if it's not a combination of all of these, we can get burnt out, we can get complacent, we can start to kind of lose steam over time. So as you're thinking about these ideas, you're thinking of popping into your mind, be like, okay, does it combine all these? And I'll go through these really quickly, right? Kind of link it back to the presentation. So, what the world needs, how you can figure this out is what I talked about before, running a meetup, doing market research, seeing if other therapists are part of this. This can let you know if there's a need out there in your community, right? Or if there's a need that you're able to kind of connect with. What you love, this is what you talk about in your free time, right? Like, what are books that you're reading in your free time? What are you talking about with your friends? What are you talking about with your loved ones? What is stuff that really gets you going, that actually has an emotional connection? That's really helpful, right? It's helpful to have that kind of emotional, personal connection to keep some of this going and to make sure that you're really phenomenal and fantastic about what you're doing, right? Then what you're good at, right? These things don't always interlock, but what you're good at, you can actually get training on. So I would recommend that if you are feeling self-conscious about running a group, there are lots of training opportunities out there to get better at doing it. You can join your own group. You can join a group. It's a great way to learn how to be a group. You can practice. You can get a part-time job at a treatment center and practice running groups there. You can intern under somebody, right? You want to find something that you're actually good at, that you are confident at, that you're licensed to do, right? That you're trained, et cetera, to make sure that you're confident about what you're doing. And then the last one, what you can be paid for. And we talked a little bit about that mixed business model of making sure that you're getting paid at least your hourly rate, ideally more. But what this really comes down to for, I think, a lot of therapists in general is not underselling yourself, right? Not trying to become a discount therapist, not thinking that people always choose with their wallet, right? People choose based on quality and based on what helps them. So making sure that you're getting compensated fairly so that you don't burn out when you're running your group. So if you get all this stuff, you're going to get Ikigai, which is pretty good. And that'll be a group and a kind of passion that you can propel forward. So this is actually the last thing, is here's your timeline. Now, I'm run through these really quick. So month one, you're in month one. If you came to this and you're excited about running a group, you're in month one right now. You're in the think tank around your theme. I'd recommend spend a whole month on this, right? Don't do anything impulsively. Don't do kind of a split decision about, oh yeah, I'm going to run a group for X, Y, and Z, right? Really think about it. Really get the idea of who do you want to talk to? How do you want to run it? Who's going to be invited? Things like that. Talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones. Really, really flesh this out, because you can see by this timeline, you're about to commit for a year to get this thing off the ground. So you don't want it to be kind of an impulse thing. You want something that really is connecting, hopefully something that fulfills all of these. Okay, so then number two is get your marketing materials together, right? Make some social media posts, make your flyer, get your forms together, get everything together ahead of time, and put the group time on your calendar. Now, again, I work with kind of executive coaching. This is a great time management skill, is schedule the time for your group. Say, you're like me, Mondays, 5 to 6:30. Schedule that on your calendar. And there's two things you do that does for you. Number one is it makes it real for you. If you believe in kind of like law of attraction, or you believe in kind of like manifesting or any of that, it's really helpful to have that on the calendar to be like, oh, this is real. This is happening, right? Even if nobody's showing up, and for a while, no one's going to show up, but it's real. You're not going to schedule clients over that, right? So then when the group time does come, you have to be like, oh God, I got to move these like 3 people to make room for the group. The other thing is it helps with time management, because during that time you're working, right? Even if the group is just you, during that time, you can be doing the other stuff, right? Emailing everybody, calling everybody, making a video, being on a podcast, sending out flyers, designing your materials. It gives you that nice hour and a half a week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do it consistently, is incredibly powerful to really chip away at getting this group off the ground. I've found that, because we're humans, right? A lot of people procrastinate. A lot of people don't put in that consistent work. They might do like a burst of marketing and then stop. Really, really common. But having that consistent group time and time to market and build can really start to kind of erode and chip away at some of these marketing tasks. So putting it on your calendar, making it real, working during that time. Then email everybody, call everybody. Start Psychology today, like I was saying, call your contacts, call your treatment centers, just get out there. Everybody you could think of, let people know that you're becoming a group psychotherapist, especially if it's your first group. Be like, look, I'm doing this is new. I'm expanding my practice, like get hyped, go out to coffees, right? Like get people really excited about and informed that you're adding this to your practice or adding this to your treatment center. Then here we go, 4 to 5, despair and determination. So you're going to get all this hype, all this fire, all this passion. And then you're going to have 2 months where nothing's going to happen. Okay. You're going to be calling people. You're going to be like, oh my God, I had this party and like nobody showed up. Like, what's that about? Like, you're going to have a couple intakes and they're going to be like, wow, these people were like really weird, or like a really bad fit for my group, or like, how did these people find me? There is this despair moment where it's not going to be easy. There is often like a kind of longer lead time than we want it to be, right? However, stay determined, keep calling people, keep emailing people, keep getting out there on social media, keep talking about group with people, keep joining professional organizations, whatever it is, keep networking, knowing that it's going to pass. But essentially what you're trying to do is reach like a critical mass where you go from an unknown entity to a known entity. And once you're known, it's a lot easier, but going from unknown to known is really difficult. So just keep going. Then usually about 6 months out, you're going to start receiving calls, build your wait list, send people those emails, send them book recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. Month 9, usually when people can finally get the group going, right? You're 9 months into it, you can finally get your group going, but most importantly, don't stop marketing, because especially if you're new to groups or it's a new group, you're going to lose people right off the bat. So in this next couple of months, there's often massive attrition and cycling of members as the core group kind of establishes. Even me, right? I've been doing this for years now. I start my groups with 6, and then it goes down to like 4 or 3 in the first couple of months, and then builds up kind of slowly after that. I see that there's a question.
There is.
yeah, how do people know after intake that they're not a good fit for the group? So this is tough. This is tough. It takes a while to learn. Now I just say like, hey, you know, I don't think you're a good fit. I try to make it as simple as possible. You're not a good fit. And then I have in my back pocket, you know, 2 or 3 referrals of other groups that they might be a good fit for. I don't make it personal. I don't tell them why. I don't give them critical feedback. If they ask, maybe I'll say something kind of vague. I'm like, hey, you know, I just don't think the membership, it would work for the membership, or, you know, hey, you know, that type of person that you said you wouldn't be in a group with, turns out that person's in my group, right? So be protective of the current group and protective of you, right? Like, I don't want to, you know, create conflict where we don't need some, things like that. I find with any of that stuff, like rejecting people, raising your fees, you know, what else can I say here? Like changing your office hours, anything, less is more. I find that when therapists, we want to explain the emotions behind it. We want to tell people, oh, but we also have sliding scale, or, oh, there's like another way out, or, oh, if you talk to me, we can change it. The more wiggly it is, the harder it is, because people will start to push back, or they will bail out because they don't feel that they're being held, right? They don't feel that the container and the frame is strong. So any kind of these big changes, it's really helpful to be like, hey, this is what's happening. It's not personal. And if you want, I can help you to find another group. Yes, Brooke was saying boundaries are so important. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Always learning those. And then, yeah, at the end, right, after massive attrition, you're pretty much stable. But again, don't stop marketing. You can see that it can become pretty lucrative. So the idea is, you know, if you're just building a new wait list, you open another group, right? So you can start opening multiple copies. Currently, I run 2 men's groups, and I run 2 supervision groups, and each of them have taken on a different kind of flavor. As I get more clear, they're a little bit more fine when I do intakes of who joins which one. So some resources, here's 2 right here. The one on the left, The Group Therapy Experience by Lou Ormont, is a great book for how to run a group. It's probably the book to read if you want to learn how to run a process group or a support group. What to look for. It's very short. I think it's like 120 pages, something like that. Great book if you're looking for clinical support on how to run a group, if you want to become better at that. And then the second one is Sell or Be Sold, which is a book on sales. I find it's like one of the best sales books. It's not written for therapists. It's actually written for people that are kind of cold call salespeople, like insurance people or whatever. But it's a really great thing to learn basic sales techniques, because again, in grad school, we're not taught any of those types of business skills. We're just taught how to listen. So here we are, screeching into the end. We got 3 minutes. If there's any questions or feedback or comments, please let me know or type in the chat. And thank you so much for joining.
Gosh, Mark, this was amazing. A lot of great information. I mean, solid information that is very useful from any perspective. And you spoke about resources in treatment centers. And if I could say anything, case management is the place to go. I know several treatment centers, they're always looking for the groups that they know are solid and good fits for their clients. And they're hard to find because there are so many different types of people looking for different types of groups. So it's a hard match sometimes. So if there's any questions, you all can go ahead and type them in. I want to let you know that, again, this is recorded. It will be available on our website. Mark has kindly offered to send his slide deck out, and any additional flyers. The word is escaping me at this moment. But he will send those out at your request. We hope that you will join us next month on August 25th. We will have Lindsay Chadwick with Hazelden Betty Ford Children's Program presenting the whole family healing, supporting children impacted by substance use. So we hope you tune in for that. And how about questions? How we doing? We get a lot of thank yous.
Yeah, a lot of thank yous, a lot of
That's
appreciation.
awesome.
I put my email there in the chat if you want any resources or any copies of anything. It's best just to email me, so it's in my hopper, and I'll send you that stuff. Right away.
Absolutely. Great webinar, Mark. Again, thank you so much for taking the time for this. We certainly appreciate it, and this was incredibly informative. And I hope that we can bring you back later on another topic.
Yeah, it's always fun. Always fun.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your month. We hope to see you in August.
Okay, thank you all.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.